Introducing the Italian Grape Geek program, a new and original approach to Italian wines. IGG, as it's fondly known, is a book, a podcast, an online theory course, and an in-person tasting course. Our pocket-sized book briefly introduces 80 grapes with benchmark producers, helping you find and taste these great wines on your own. Space to make your own notes makes the book a personal record of your Italian wine journey. No time to read? We've read the whole book out loud with added insights from Italian wine ambassadors. Listen for free on Italian Wine Podcast. Obsessed with Italian wine? Take the super accessible online theory course. Get certified as an Italian grape geek. Want more? Our international IGG educators have got your in-person tasting course to cap off your full IGG immersion. Go to mamajumboshrimp.com and sign up today.
I think the biggest challenge in today's market, especially in the US, is really to build a brand. We are a young winery, we don't have a big name yet. So the idea is really to find a partner that still believes in taking on a winery, presenting to the market and grow with that winery. So see the growth organically happen over the years. So the idea is to partner with someone that has our same philosophy at the end of the day. Same values, and that we know that when we show up on the market, when I come and visit, we'll usually put my wines in front of people that care about the same things.
Yeah, the right customers.
And the right customers. But it's also, honestly, my strategy, if you call it like that, is just to honestly be present.
Hello, welcome to Masterclas US Wine Market with me, your host, Juliana Colangelo. This show has been designed to demystify the U.S. market for Italian wineries through interviews with experts in sales and distribution, social media, communications, and so much more. We will quiz each of our esteemed guests in every episode to solidify the lessons that we've learned from the episode. So sharpen your pencils, get out your notebooks, and join us this week to learn more about the U.S. market.
Hello, welcome to Masterclass US Wine Market. Today, I'm thrilled to be here in person with Giovanna Bagnasco of Agricola Brandini. So on today's episode, we're going to talk about next generation in Italian wine, women in wine and leadership in Italian wine, and how Gio is leaving her mark on leadership of Agricola Brandini. It's very fun to be here in Brooklyn. How's your week in New York been?
It has been amazing.
Yeah.
Climate has been great. Back home when I left, we just finished harvest last week.
Oh, wow.
And the climate started to get pretty cold and chill. So it has been good to be in New York on this beautiful week. Visit a lot of places. I haven't been back in 3 years.
Oh, wow.
I was really excited to see what was up and new places, see old friends. It has been very fun.
Absolutely. And speaking of new places, we're here at a great wine bar called With Others in Brooklyn and Williamsburg. They feature a lot of women in wine, a great owner, Shauna. So we're excited to be filming live today, which is so fun. Well, Gio, before we start, it's Friday. Let's have a sip of wine. What are we drinking? Cheers.
Cheers.
Chin chin.
Chin chin. We're drinking the Barolo del Comune di La Morra 2020. Okay. So it's our village Barolo from the village of La Morra.
Okay. So that's this bottle here. Yeah. Beautiful.
Which is home. It's La Morra is the village where we are, so it's kind of underlying what La Morra is known for, which is this beautiful elegance and fruit and flower forward profile.
Okay, beautiful. Oh, that's so pretty. What vintage?
2020.
2020.
Which is
what a year.
Yeah. What a year.
What a
Keeping
year.
the record, but great wine.
Yes.
We had a lot of time to farm.
Yes, exactly. It'll be really fun to get into the 20 vintage, right? Absolutely. So, for starters, tell us a little bit about Agricola Brandini. Obviously, you're in La Morra, in Piemonte, but a little bit about the family history of the winery.
Yeah, so it's fairly recent winery compared, obviously, to the region that we are in that has had a lot of multi-generational family companies. We started in 2007 when my father acquired a estate, and then really focused mainly on the farming for the first years and did not start making wine officially until 2010. And that started really slowly until, honestly, the real beginning is when my sister and I decided to take over the estate and really made it our life and our job. And that was 2015. So since then, Serena and I have been managing the property, dividing between farming, winemaking, sales, managing. We also have a little hospitality on site, a restaurant and hotel. So it has been a lot of fun. Become our life, and it has been a beautiful adventure.
And you're a decade in. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a huge
Thank you.
accomplishment. So on today's episode, some of our themes and takeaways and what we're really excited to talk to you about is this next generation perspective in Italy specifically, a country and a region that's so steeped in history, especially in Piedmont, right?
Yeah.
So how the next gen is really coming into its own, and with you and your sister really being at the forefront. But we also want to understand how you approach the U.S. market. You've been here in New York for a week working the market. So how do you make a trip like this successful? And finally, how are you adapting and evolving the brand to the consumer, who's obviously changing as well? So those are a few of the themes we'll talk about. But
Amazing.
For starters, you mentioned briefly the history. You took over fully in 2015.
Yeah.
But in 2009, you started working on the farming as well.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that conversion that you spearheaded to organic farming at Brandini.
Yeah, I think probably the biggest change that we've seen in the past decade in Barolo, but in general in Italy, has been definitely into the farming side of winemaking. I think we've all set the focus back into the vineyards, and we are navigating climate change as much as every other region in the world.
Of course, yeah.
So I feel like, especially as a younger estate without a big name or an established style in wine, the idea was, let's go back to the one ingredients that wine is about, which are grapes. So I feel today, nowadays, if you still want to make a Barolo that follows the tradition, that is classic in terms of style and profile, you really need to change everything in the farming.
Okay.
That means navigating climate change, but also means respecting the soil. We are blessed to be in Barolo, which is one of the most beautiful wine regions in the world.
Really is, yeah.
But if we also want to hope that the next 4, 5, 10 generations will do our job, we need to respect that soil.
Right.
We are probably the first generation to really see the results of climate change.
Of course.
And pay a little bit the costs and the consequences of it. So I think the idea is just to go back and spend a lot of time in the vineyard.
Okay.
And change everything, like from pruning to picking. If you think about the 80s and the 90s, where like my grandfather generation were working in the vineyard, they had a calendar that they kept following because Piemonte always had 4 very distinctive seasons.
Right.
But nowadays, those 4 seasons are not there anymore. They're kind of mixed up. We see a lot of extreme, big storms, drought, heat waves, which were not the case back then. So we needed to change all the practices, from pushing pruning of 2 months to avoid late frost, from pruning in a different way. Everything they did back then, because the biggest enemy usually was the cold climate, the humidity, the mildew pressure.
The fog, right?
The fog,
the
all of that.
Right?
Correct. So nowadays it's not the case anymore. The enemy is more the drought, the heat, and these extremes.
Oh, I've been in Piedmont in the summer. It's hot. Yeah.
It's hot. It gets hot.
Yes, it gets hot for sure.
So the idea is not to try to concentrate. The idea is more about giving more like shade to the vines, leaving more buds of pruning, and providing an environment that is better for this warmer climate, while also making sure that you respect the soil, the microbiome, the biodiversity that holds us today.
Right. And you and your sister obviously embrace this philosophy of organic for many reasons, like you just detailed.
Yeah.
Do you see other producers in the region? I mean, you could think about Piedmont or even outside of Piedmont, but in Italy in general, do you think it's the next generation that's leading some of this conversion to organic, or are you seeing it more like industry-wide?
I think it's both. It's industry-wise, but it's because of the young generation.
Instigating the change.
Absolutely. I think we're more into it. We get bombarded all day by, thankfully, by all the news and the information that we need to actually bring farming to this next level.
Yeah.
So I've, even in the past 15 years in Barolo, I've really seen the change happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're not 1 in a million, you're not the drop in the ocean, but each region of Italy, and even in Piedmont and in Barolo, everyone is moving towards good farming.
Yeah.
Even just driving around, 10 years ago, you see everything sprayed in herbicides. Today, you don't see that happening anymore.
Yeah.
So it's just getting better. Nature is taking back a little bit the wilderness, the biodiversity.
Right.
You see birds coming back, insects, different
That's so
weeds.
cool.
So it's very cool to see that happening.
And how do you think that translates into some of the marketing? You know, we're on a marketing themed podcast, so of course I'm going to ask that question, especially as it relates to this next generation consumer. Like, how are you incorporating the information around organic into your label, your website, your branding?
I think the good thing is that in general, the new generation of consumer is asking a lot more about the farming practices.
Right.
Like usually when you met with a consumer maybe 15, 20 years ago, most of the questions were around which barrel do you use?
Right.
How do you take on the fermentation, the maceration? Everything was about the winemaking. The cellar. So the cellar master, whatever he was doing to turn grapes into wine and which style he adapted.
Right.
Nowadays, most of the questions that I get asked, even when I travel, are like, how do you farm? Which kind of treatment do you use? How do you apply regenerative farming into Barolo? What about the climate, the slope, the sun phase?
Wow.
So it's just a lot of more demand about farming. So as much as you are able to give them information through the label, through social media, kind of make sure that they can get a sneak peek inside a winery, inside the vineyard, see what we're doing. Not everyone comes from the countryside or from a wine region.
Right.
So if you're able to bring that to them and see how everyday life and how everyday farming actually impact a community and impacts the whole region, they can really buy into that and definitely relate to that and feel that when they're buying one of those wines, they're actually doing something good.
Absolutely.
So
and I have to look at and call out your labels because I've never seen this on an Italian wine label, and I think it's genius. But you're actually calling out the exposition.
Yeah.
And this is your handwriting, which is so cool. Yeah, that's amazing. So I love that you're giving clear information, like directly on the label. And we know Italian labels are notoriously very complicated to understand. So this is very cool. Can you tell us a little bit about like your inspiration for the label?
The inspiration was that like the idea was exactly as you say, like keep away the complicated feature of a label, but make it more of a roadmap.
Right.
So of course, Italian wine is complicated. There are a lot of regions, a lot of sub-regions. The idea was like, obviously there is our name, there is the name of the region quite clear, the name of the vineyard, the vintage, and then some specification that kind of helps you understand also what you're about to drink. So if it is a lower altitude, higher altitude, if it is a east facing, a west facing, so you already know if you're getting riper fruit, if you're getting something a little bit more introverted, that it deserves some more aging.
Right.
So that's and also the size of the parcel, because we have the number of bottles that we make. Cool. So it helps with that.
Yeah. So obviously, Gio, with the level of information and detail, in your labels, you're going after a more sophisticated consumer, right? Someone who cares about quality, who cares about farming, who cares about these details. So talk to us a little bit how you designed your route to market strategy with all of that in mind, especially here for the U.S. market specifically. How did you find the right partners to work with to really represent Brandini in the right way?
So I think the biggest challenge in today's market, especially in the US, is really to build a brand. We are a young winery, we don't have a big name yet. So the idea is really to find a partner that still believes in taking on a winery, presenting to the market and grow with that winery. So see the growth organically happen over the years. So the idea of the source that we work with, our importer, has always been focusing on European wine that are kind of still family owned. They're really focused on the right way of farming, so on sustainability, and they make a product that it's really terroir-driven.
Right.
So the idea is to partner with someone that has our same philosophy at the end of the day. Same values, and that we know that when we show up on the market, when I come and visit, we'll usually put my wines in front of people that care about the same things.
Yeah, the right customers.
And the right customers. But it's also, honestly, my strategy, if you call it like that, is just to honestly be present.
Yeah.
To show up. Because I think building a brand, especially when it comes to wine, still goes back to connections. To be in front of as many people as possible.
Yeah.
So it's usually half and half between final consumer and trade. So it's both showing up in front of the influential sommeliers and the journalists and the press, but also try to do dinners, winemaker dinners, when you meet the people that then will come in summer maybe to spend their holiday in Barolo or come for truffle. And so they will come back, and you build a relationship that also grows over the year. Absolutely. And those are going to be the collector that will talk about you, share your wine with friends, and tell your stories.
Those are your brand. Those are your unpaid brand ambassadors.
That's
They're buying your wine. They're repping your brand. I mean, people love to have that personal connection with the brand. So, like you said, I think that's a really important key takeaway that you just said is when you come to market. Yes, you want to meet with buyers and sommeliers, but don't forget about the consumer. And especially at the higher end luxury wines, like you can connect directly with those collectors, which is a fantastic opportunity, like you said.
Totally. And a lot of them, exactly because navigating the world of wine and Italian wine is so complicated at times.
Yeah.
If they get to find a person from a region that they can rely on. Then when they come visit, they'll get to go on the region in general and see other wineries and meet other people. And they really become your fan, your ambassador, as you said. And you build connection that lasts for generations.
Absolutely.
So it's
pretty cool to see that.
Definitely cool.
Yeah. How did you find the source? Like how did they find you? I don't know which way it happened, but tell us a little bit about that because there's a lot of brands out there, whether they're just starting out or trying to find out how to find that right representation and where do I even start? So tell us a little bit about
that. It's kind of going back to that connection that it's the base of everything that we do. It happened in a very just through mutual friends, as it happens in the best matching. But Ted, the owner of the source, I met him in 2018 through a mutual friend, Max, that is an Italian that has been living in Canada and LA for many years. So they were visiting Piemonte, and Max asked if he could bring along Ted, and we tasted the wines. And it was very, very simple. We tasted, we found each other along with the same kind of palate and taste, and we shared a lot of the same values. And then the relationship kind of stayed in standby for a couple of years until I was actually ready to rebuild the US market. And then I was actually with another common friend, Raj Par, and one day I was having dinner with him in Napa, and we tasted the wine, and it's like, there's only one guy that can sell your wine in the United States. It's Ted. I'm like, I know Ted. So awesome. I reconnected with Ted after a couple of years, and we decided it was the right timing. And we started together in California, and then the rest is history. It has been a beautiful, beautiful partnership with them.
That's great. And like you said, it all comes back to connections and that
100%.
Network that we're all really lucky to have in this industry and that web.
It's a very small board.
Yeah.
For the best.
Yes.
It's fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to hear that you found the right partner, and it seems like you're having success here in the U.S. market. How has it been over the last few years since you started working with the source, working the market? Where have you found success? What states, what types of accounts? Just tell us a little bit more about your experience, in the U.S. market with Brandini.
Well, I think the past years have been a combination of a lot of success through my partner, but has also been definitely navigating a little bit the challenges with the tariffs and just the market changing, the consumer of wine going down a little bit. So it has been about kind of setting a trend, navigating what was going on in the market, reading the crowd, and just try to understand what was the best strategy at the end of the day. And I've worked a little bit all over the places. I think obviously California and New York are kind of the places where, they're always the places where you can build a brand, and the industry is here, so you can really get to show the wine and put a light on the brand.
That's where the trade is focused and concentrated, like you said, and that way that helps really cement your brand.
Yeah, but then there are also what it's defined as a minor market, which I think have amazing potential, because maybe our markets where not every winemaker goes and visit. Everyone comes to New York at the point that sometime you visit a buyer and they're like, oh yeah, you're my fifth today.
Yeah.
But then if you go to like Arizona, or you go to North Carolina, South Carolina, you go to other markets, they're not used to that kind of stream of winemakers and get wine dinners here and there and get wine events. So they actually put a lot of effort into it and give a lot of value to that.
Definitely.
So I would definitely see it as a good combination between the most established market, but also go and explore something a little bit more smaller, of a smaller scale, but where you can still make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's markets and pockets of like extreme wealth in the U.S. in these smaller markets. So it's definitely something to look at, with your importer partners for sure.
Absolutely.
I do want to ask you a little bit about this next generation in Italy and a little more about that, considering you're kind of a first generation, but also this face of the future of Piedmont. How do you see the next generation of women, specifically in Italy, really leading the way? Like, how do you think they'll leave a mark, as we can say, like this next generation of female leaders in particular in Italy?
Well, I think it's super exciting to be a winemaker today in Italy.
Yeah.
I think all of those differences between women and men are pretty much gone. I do think, though, us as women winemaker always needed to run a little bit of that extra mile to prove ourselves.
Right.
But that means that we're just more ready. We have studied a lot. We have learned our way. We've learned how to work with our team and our people in the vineyards, in the cellar. So I think it's very exciting because we're ready. We're learned. We have learned from our parents or our grandparents from other generation. We have traveled a little bit the world compared to previous generations, I think.
Right.
So we can also get inspired by other wine regions, not only our neighbors.
Of course, yeah.
And I think in general we have this better view about growing the region and not only growing our own brand.
Right.
So there is more collaboration, I feel.
Yeah.
And I think there is more openness about talking about winemaking techniques and
transparency.
just picking up the phone and be, hey, what are you doing? Are you picking? Is it raining?
Sharing.
Sharing. And we're all in this together. And I think as women, we've always been kind of caregiver.
Yeah.
So we are ready to do our best and kind of work with our heart and soul and put it into the next years of wine.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of exciting things are coming.
I think it's a great change for Italy in general because Italy's steeped in this tradition, which is great, but the next generation of drinkers doesn't want just that. They want stories. They want to meet the people behind the wine. They want to see new faces, and I think especially when they meet young, dynamic women as well, and they can see themselves in the brand, right? And I think that's great. And majority of wine purchasers in the U.S., believe it or not, are women actually. So I think that's
100%.
a huge benefit.
And I think it's always, I feel, being a newer generation, being a woman in Italian wine industry, sometimes feels a little bit like walking on thin ice because you do have on your shoulder that respect for the tradition and the land that you are in, which is obviously covered in tradition, many, many years of winemaking, but you also have that fire in your belly to change something and put your own footprint into what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So I think it's very good if you manage to find a good balance between tradition and classic wines, but also something a little bit more personal.
Totally.
It's very fun and exciting, and people follow that for sure.
Absolutely. Well, this has been so much fun. I love talking to you. It's just been a great interview. But as we wind down, we do our rapid fire quiz.
Okay.
So just answer these questions in 1 or 2 sentences.
Okay.
The first one is, what is your number one tip for mastering the U.S. wine market?
Be present. Just come to the market. Come visit the market. Be here. Tell your story. Sit in front of as many people as you can. Open bottles and share your passion with the people.
Share your passion. I love that.
Yeah.
What's something you might have told your younger professional self about being in the wine industry?
Not to be afraid. I feel like, especially having a younger winery and being new to the market, I always kind of tiptoed into the business. I think just be brave and just go with your gut.
I love that. And finally, you said be present, be in the market. So what's your best tip, advice for traveling overseas? What's something you like to do when you travel? A travel hack.
Travel hack is to enjoy a little bit of downtime.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Take that extra Saturday and Sunday in a city. Love the city. Don't just see the airport and the restaurants. Just take some time to see the culture and to take something home in your luggage. Don't only bring yourself, bring something home.
Bring something home. I love that advice. Well, thank you again for being with us on the Italian Wine Podcast.
Grazie,
How can our
you.
listeners connect with you and follow along with what you're doing?
Well, we'll try to be as good as we can on social media, so they can follow us at Agricola Brandini.
Okay.
We have a website, and they can all come visit us. That would be great. So
all right. Fantastic. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. Cheers, Remy,
Grazie.
cameraman.
Thank you for joining me today. Stay tuned each week for new episodes of Masterclass US Wine Market with me, Juliana Colangelo. And remember, if you've enjoyed today's show, hit the like and follow buttons wherever you get your podcasts.